Canada's Wonderland has just announced their 19th roller coaster, AlpenFury. The new ride will be opening next year in 2025, and when it does, it will stand as Canada's longest, tallest, and fastest launch coaster. In a lot of ways, this new roller coaster looks like the perfect addition to Canada's Wonderland, but there are a few things about it that do have me scratching my head. So in this video, I'll be analyzing the new attraction and giving my thoughts on it to really break down what should be awesome about this ride and what might be a potential risk. If you guys enjoy the video as it plays, be sure to hit the like button as it does help the channel greatly against the YouTube algorithm. Alright, without further delay, let's discuss AlpenFury. So right off the bat, this is Canada's Wonderland's 19th roller coaster. So this attraction did not require the removal of one of the park's other roller coasters. It is taking up some of the space previously occupied by the park's sky coaster. This element here actually exists in that spot, the Skyflyer Loop, which is an all-new inversion, but we'll get into that in a second. Crazy enough, this is the 4th roller coaster at Canada's Wonderland to occupy the Wonder Mountain. You already have Vortex, which climbs above the back of Wonder Mountain. Then there's Thunder Run, which is a powered coaster which is built into the right side of the mountain. You also have Wonder Mountain's Guardian, which is built into the left side of the mountain. And now you have the new AlpenFury, which launches under the mountain and then climbs right out the top of it. And I'm sure if you're a big King's Dominion fan that you are really jealous that the volcano-like replacement happened at Canada's Wonderland and not King's Dominion. But in a lot of ways, it does make sense. Rapterra looks awesome, and that will definitely be a perfect fit for King's Dominion. That park needed a more graceful attraction, and throwing in some cool theming in the launch will definitely make it pretty popular with the general public. Plus, the original mountain that was used for Volcano was definitely in disrepair and had to go as well. So the park would have had to construct a brand new mountain for a roller coaster. And to be honest, they really don't need to. Whereas with Canada's Wonderland, they already have a mountain and it must be in much better condition, especially since the park is willing to put a 4th attraction through it. So it's probably safe to say that the Wonder Mountain is not going anywhere anytime soon. Now, I have heard some raise concerns about the new coaster ruining the sight lines of the mountain, which yes, from the front it does look a little odd, but personally for me, I think it's worth it. But I am much less emotionally attached to Canada's Wonderland, and I do think this new ride looks awesome, so I'm all for it. But I do understand where you're coming from if you do think it does distract from the sightline. From the back of the mountain, I think it's gonna look pretty crazy. The roller coaster is definitely gonna dominate over the mountain, but I think the mountain is more about the view from the front, so hopefully it's not too bad. The ride's entrance and station will be located in International Festival, which when you're looking at the front of Wonder Mountain will be to the right of it. It looks like it's giving that plaza over there a lot of life, and interestingly, it does look like the station is taking up this multi-faith space, which is used for various religious practices. So I can't say I've ever seen that before where a roller coaster took up like a religious space, but hopefully that's not an issue with the people that go to Canada's Wonderland. Another interesting thing is that the ride station seems like it's surrounded on all 4 sides by Midway. So I want to guess that this building here is the ride's entrance, and that the queue will be housed within the station building. Canada's Wonderland does receive a lot of visitors, and their lines can get pretty long, so I'm hoping that the queue within this building is long enough, especially since the capacity of this ride may not be as good as some of their other newer roller coasters. More on that in just a bit. Then as far as the layout of the ride goes, it's basically an out and back coaster with a lot of inline rolls. The station building will start here where this multi-faith space currently is located. The ride will then blast through Wonder Mountain heading towards Behemoth, and then make a turn towards the front entrance where it will run out and back to the Sky Coaster plot. The ride then hugs the back of the Wonder Mountain where it then enters the final brake run, ending the ride. Overall, the duration looks pretty good for a launch coaster, especially for a launch coaster built by Premier Rides. Premier is the manufacturer that is producing AlpenFury, and in a lot of ways, this looks like the best roller coaster they've ever made. Premier is of course famous for their 90s LIM launching roller coasters, like Flight of Fear or Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite roller coasters, so Premier really does know what they're doing. And in a lot of ways, I don't think they get enough credit, although I do definitely question some of their engineering decisions in the 90s, as well as their current train design. But what they definitely deserve credit for is their dynamic and forceful ride layouts. Even their Skyrocket 2 coasters, which are cloned everywhere, produce some of the most intense moments that I've felt on roller coasters, between both positive G's and negative G's. And I think I can see that with AlpenFury's layout. I think there's going to be a lot of good moments of strong positive G-forces, which I know I'm a big fan of. And while there aren't many straight up airtime hills, I do think a lot of the inversions, which are basically variations of Heartline rolls, are probably going to deliver upside down ejector airtime. just like this roll does on Skyrocket at Kennywood. It honestly delivers crazy airtime, and I really think a good amount of the inversions on AlpenFury will deliver the same effect. In total, there's 9 inversions on the ride, which is insane, and if a good amount of them are able to execute upside down ejector airtime, then I think Canada's Wonderland is looking at a winner. I also love the variation of elements, and 3 of them are basically brand new and you won't find them anywhere else. First is the Fire Serpent Roll, which is the first element following the ride's second launch. This is where you blast out of the Wonder Mountain and it's almost like a top hat, but there's a roll up the element that leaves you on your side and then a roll down the element, and it looks like it's pretty snappy as it heads into that drop. Honestly, the most chill element looks like the one after that, as the train weaves between 2 rolls that are on the return run of the coaster, which was definitely done to give a head chopping effect. After that, you've got a 0G stall, which looks to have some good snap into and out of the element. Then you've got the ride's second new inversion, the Skyflyer Loop, which starts off as a helix that then really tightens towards the top, which will probably give some good positive Gs. Then a sideways airtime pop that leads into a 0G roll that heads back to ground. And then right after that is the ride's third new element, the Ice Winder Roll, which is almost like a Cobra roll with the way it combines 2 inversions, but instead of half loops, they're like 2 0G rolls. So hopefully both these inversions offer some nice upside down airtime. After that, you've got 2 more rolls which roll over that second element of the ride, which completes that head chopper effect. And then you've actually got an airtime hill, which leads into a more traditional 0G roll, and then 2 little hops into the brake run. The ride is listed to have a duration of 1 minute and 20 seconds. And from when the train starts the first launch to when the train hits the final brake run looks to be about 47 seconds. So that should be pretty solid for a launching roller coaster. Now, being that it's a short layout, the ride only runs with 2 trains, which I think for most parks would be no problem. Doing some quick math and assumption of block zones, I think it's fair to say that AlpenFury is theoretically capable of launching a train every 60 seconds. This equates to 60 launches an hour, and with 18 passengers per train, means a theoretical 1,080 riders per hour. Now, of course, that is on paper, and in reality, even with an A team running the coaster, I'd expect anywhere from 45 to 50 dispatches an hour. So this is my first critique of the coaster, is just the capacity, especially being that the ride is at Canada's Wonderland. In 2019, Canada's Wonderland was the most visited seasonal amusement park in North America, with an estimated attendance of 3.9 million guests. And let me tell you, from personal experience, this park draws a crowd, so it's really important that their rides run at their highest capacity. Now, most of the newer additions to Canada's Wonderland have been 3 train coasters, but they do have other 2 train coasters like Vortex. But I really do think there was a missed opportunity here to basically make what is a 2 train coaster a 3 train coaster. A perfect example of that being Millennium Force at Cedar Point. Millennium Force was really built as a 2 train coaster. It has the same ride duration as El Toro at Six Flags Great Adventure, and in fact both rides have the same theoretical capacity of 1,296 riders per hour, as they can both dispatch 36 trains at most an hour. But Cedar Point had Intamin add an unload station to Millennium Force. What the unload station does is it makes it easier for the ride to hit its minimum cycle time every cycle. And from when Millennium Force opened in 2000 to pretty much 2018, the ride ran at almost its minimum cycle time for every cycle. Hopefully next year with Millennium Force's new lift motor, those awesome operations can come back. But here in AlpenFury, I do think the right approach would have been adopting that unload station into the coaster to make it a 3 train ride, where basically it'll still be capable of cycling 60 trains an hour, but with a separate unload station it would make it a lot easier to hit 60 trains an hour, or at least close to it. I'm already assuming that the station building for AlpenFury will be able to hold 2 trains, with the most forward position being the load and unload station, and the rear position being a stack location, where the second train can stack behind the one in the station, and probably also where the ride's storage track will be, as judging by the midway surrounding the ride, there really isn't much room for that, so it would make sense with this single station setup to put the ride's storage track in the station building as well, similar to Fahrenheit at Hershey Park. Now, to make that separate unload station possible, I think it would have been worth it to axe this little bump into the brake run, and just leave a single airtime hill into the brake run, and then leave additional space to add a block zone to the coaster. Now, if you're unfamiliar, a block zone is a section of ride that only one train may occupy. At the end of a block zone is a method to stop a train in case the block zone ahead is still occupied. This is the safety system that prevents roller coaster trains from colliding into one another. As far as I can tell, this would be the block zone setup of AlpenFury. First, you've got the station block, which is in the most forward location of the station building. Then following is the launch block, which includes both launches and extends to the crest of the Fire Serpent Roll. Then after that is the brake block, which is basically the entire ride, extending from the second half of the Fire Serpent Roll to the end of the first portion of Final Brake Run right before the train enters the station building. And then following that is what I'll call the transfer block, assuming this is where the ride's transfer track is for train storage. But as the ride will probably exist, this will just be a stacking location. But what I think the park should have really done is make the transfer block a separate unload station block, and then with the elimination of this little bump into the brake run, they could move the final brake run further from the station to free up room for another block zone, which could then become another stack position for a third train. Now, even with the ride's 2-train setup, I don't think it'll be the end of the world, and with a good crew, they should be capable of pumping out a lot of trains. But one of the major downsides with the 2-train coaster is if one of the ride vehicles becomes unusable, the ride will always have to go down to 1-train operations. Whereas with a 3-train coaster, if you lose one ride vehicle, you still have 2 trains to operate with. As far as I can tell, the ride won't have comfort collars, and it shouldn't have seatbelts either. As Cedar Fair Corporate, before they combined into Six Flags, were actually against putting seatbelts on their newer attractions. From what I've heard, Corporate came to the decision that adding seatbelts to their attractions doesn't really increase the safety of a ride, and it can actually worsen that ride's capacity. So we never saw seatbelts on Wild Mouse at Cedar Point, as well as Zambezi Zinger at Worlds of Fun and Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point. All those rides only have a lap bar. So I'm assuming the same will happen here for AlpenFury, and there will most definitely be a sensor in the lap bar that just determines if it's low enough for the largest rider. So it'll be safe, and it should allow operations to move nice and quickly. The only problem though is the trains. This train generation from Premier just makes it really hard to get in and out of them, as there's not much space between each row, and that'll make it more difficult for taller riders or other riders with maybe physical disabilities to get in and out. So in order to hit those super high launch counts, the train will not be able to be in the station for that long at all. So I'm hoping that at least riders won't enter the ride with loose articles already, and that hopefully we'll see some sort of moving loose article bin like we see on Yukon Striker, as we haven't seen a ride at Canada's Wonderland with straight up lockers yet. But who knows, maybe they'll implement lockers for this attraction. Honestly, I was really hoping for a new train design from Premier with this new ride, as I do think it's one of their flaws that holds them back as a manufacturer. They build great roller coasters, but I've always thought their trains are honestly garbage. They ride very smooth, but they're so difficult to get in and out of, and I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they've lost contracts because of these trains. Now, I'm very happy that they won this contract, and this will definitely be a great addition to Canada's Wonderland. I just really hope the trains aren't an issue. Now, judging from the concept art, it does look like the trains are a little bit different from some of the newer installations we've seen of these trains. Here on the side of the seat, you'll notice that they're a little more open air, as Premier typically adds like a wall to the side of these seats, which does limit how you can get in and out of them. But here it looks like they're more open air, more like how they are on Skyrocket at Kennywood, but hopefully that helps with riders getting in and out of these trains. But other than that, I think this coaster is going to be awesome. I love its color scheme, it's got a great length for what it is, and Canada's Wonderland needed a coaster like this. I think a lot of the elements look super unique in AlpenFury, and I'm really hopeful that we'll be seeing a lot of upside down airtime through a lot of these Heartline rolls. I haven't been to Canada's Wonderland since 2019, and I know this is definitely going to get me out there next year in 2025. It's going to be a smooth, forceful, and intense experience, and I'm looking forward to blasting out of the Wonder Mountain. So with that, I'm going to conclude my analysis video on AlpenFury. Be sure to let me know what your thoughts are on the coaster in the comments down below. I'm definitely very much looking forward to this roller coaster. Alright, thanks for watching everyone, and be sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe for more nerdy content like this. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.